All right, well, I think it's the dings have slowed down a little bit, so I think we probably got everybody that's going to join in. So let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everybody. I'm Rich Severson, VP of Solutions Engineering at Stratodesk, and welcome. It's another one in the series of the Stratodesk Tech Talks. And today I'm happy to introduce two additional individuals with two different companies, part of our alliance partnerships. So I'm going to let Cathy and Ryan go ahead and introduce themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the agenda real quick because I think everybody's had an opportunity to see our smiling faces, and obviously we're on camera and see our titles, et cetera. So I'm going to flip the slide just so we can go ahead and get started. And Ryan, why don't you go ahead and do your introduction?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Carignan. I'm a solutions architect at Leostream.
And welcome, and thank you again for joining. Cathy.
Thank you, Rich, and thanks to the Stratodesk team for organizing this tech talk. It's greatly appreciated. Hello, everyone. I'm Cathy Lascara, and I'm representing Mechdyne today as the TGX product owner and partner manager.
So guys, as part of the agenda, we're going to go through this real quickly, but I mean, this is one of those things that this came about, in multiple ways and multiple reasons, but I thought it was an interesting technology. And so I obviously communicated with our marketing team thinking, this is something that we need to talk about. And I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to, meet with Ryan and Cathy and go through this. And you'll see, kind of what's the importance of this, why we're doing this. And these are all the items that we're going to cover today. So, so let's talk about, what is the importance of this and why are we doing this, right? Obviously, there's multiple different thin client use cases, scenarios, and those kinds of things out there. And clearly there's multiple protocols, obviously the ones that we're aware of, the VMwares, the Citrix, all those things that everybody, kind of knows about all the time. But this is going to introduce a new solution and a new protocol that I think it's important for everybody to understand. So what this does is this brings together what we Stratodesk do, the NoTouch OS, NoTouch Center, the secure enterprise thin client OS, high performance Linux operating system, I guess, if you will, the Mechdyne TGX high performance protocol, and we'll go into those details a little bit, as well as the Leostream connection, brokering, and gateway pieces of this. So let's go ahead and step through this and talk about, what we're going to talk about, go through the whole thing. So Stratodesk, again, just to be clear, make sure everybody knows, right? So Stratodesk, we developed NoTouch OS. It's a high performance, secure Linux operating system that doesn't look and feel like Linux, that provides the ability to have connectivity to all the different VDI type protocols, browser-based connections, those kinds of things, and comes with a fantastic enterprise-grade management platform called NoTouch Center. And then, of course, NoTouch Center and NoTouch OS, the communication and management, is highly secure and all those kinds of things that you would expect. And it truly gives the enterprise user, enterprise administrators, I should say, the ability to have a simple tool to manage those devices, including the ability to have some automation, including hands-off deployability. So that's kind of what we do. So Cathy, your turn. Tell us a little bit about Mechdyne and this TGX thing that I'm really excited to everybody hear about.
Sure. In a nutshell, Mechdyne is a provider of advanced visualization technologies. We were founded back in the late 1990s, and we actually pioneered enterprise scale virtual reality solutions. And so these were big rooms. They were multi-wall, multi-projector, multi-PC virtual reality. From there, we diversified into AV, and then obviously went into AV IT, and then also IT solutions. So I'm actually part of the software team with Mechdyne, and we create software products and services to drive the larger solutions deployed by Mechdyne. Today, I'm here to talk about one of our products, TGX.
So, and again, I want to reiterate and bring that to the forefront again. Again, I think everybody's heard about the VMwares and the RDP things. We're talking about TGX. This is a protocol that's going to give client connectivity to high resolution, high performance video. So think about that. And I can't overstate this enough. Having been in the space as long as I have, TGX was new to me. And that's why I thought doing this webinar today was really important. And Cathy, I can't, again, say thank you enough for, taking my call and getting this partnership going. So again, a little bit more detail about the TGX stuff.
Sure. So we call it a high performance remote workstation software. And obviously our mission, like many other groups, is to connect the enterprise. So TGX targets power users with graphically intensive applications and large data sets. In addition, these power users typically demand a very responsive experience, even with high-resolution desktops and challenging workflows. We support a variety of industries, as listed here, but basically anyone with a workflow that demands a high-end GPU is a power user, and they will benefit from using TGX. Now, I'm referencing the GPU on the remote workstation side. We call this the TGX sender. The local client, which is what we refer to as a TGX receiver, does not necessarily need or require a discrete GPU. So I don't want to make you think you have to have GPU to GPU on this. TGX will harness optimizations that are available on integrated GPUs, for example, Intel and AMD. If a discrete GPU is available, then TGX will use it.
So in this case, then, just to be clear, as part of this use case in the description here, so the TGX receiver is actually what would go on the Stratodesk NoTouch OS.
Correct.
And then those connections and that management gets brokered through the Leostream portion of it that we'll be getting to in just a moment. So
Right.
A little more details, again.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So, we basically harnessed our 25 years of experience with high-end AR or VR and AV solutions to provide a remote experience that feels like a local experience. We do leverage as much hardware acceleration and software algorithms as we can. We target high frame rates, obviously exceptional video and audio quality. We will run in a hybrid environment. So you can run TGX Sender in the cloud with your client anywhere. We'll run on any VDI deployment. We're agnostic to whether it's, VMware, Red Hat, Citrix. And we also run on good old fashioned workstations. There's nothing wrong with physical workstations. We do have a multi-user collaboration that's part of TGX that allows multiple connections with shared control. Don't know if I mentioned it, but TGX loves multiple monitors and high desktops, high resolution desktops, and I would say vice versa. They love TGX. So, Mechdyne's been very comfortable with large visual workspace. I'm talking about lots and lots of pixels. And so out of necessity, we became very experienced with harnessing the power that's available to us through a variety of different types of GPUs. And so that's, TGX actually started as a client request. We had a large energy enterprise customer with a campus that had lots of visualization rooms and lots of conference rooms that were provided and managed by Mechdyne. And this was a really large, complex AV setup. Several years ago, they wanted to share those desktops between rooms on campus and then actually between campuses. And they did not want to use any type of AV cabling. So network transmission was the only option. So TGX was actually born out of that client request. And over time, it's been morphed into the product we have today with, continual input by our customers.
So I just want to reiterate that. So it doesn't have to be a local network requirement. I mean, this can be delivered through the cloud. It can be delivered truly remotely across, I don't imagine the entire range, but I mean, given the fact that from what I've seen for the performance, you can truly deploy this however you like, and it'll meet any requirement.
That's the game plan.
That's truly incredible to be able to deliver that kind of video, to the end users, because of course, at the end of the day, it's all about getting that end user out, or the experience out to the end users, right? So we've talked a little bit about TGX and we've talked about Stratodesk. So let's talk about Leostream and why Leostream, what they bring to this, and why, what the importance is, because again, having the ability to manage endpoints, which is of course what we do, and being able to do that securely across the network, et cetera. And then, obviously being able to do the TGX and enable the TGX protocol and those types of connections, there's a piece in between, about how do you manage, and I guess, and Ryan, I'll let you jump into this, how do you control when you have pools of VDIs or pools of display units or visualizations that you want to get across multiple users? So with Ryan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about Leostream and why you're part of the party here.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So Leostream has always been a kind of customer-driven piece in a virtual and remote access workflow. So where we kind of fit is to be that glue between an endpoint, a desktop, and the display protocol. And then that can bridge across to workstations, virtual hosts. And what we'll do is become a management plane on top that lets us take a display protocol or an endpoint that natively is going to build, a point-to-point connection and allow you to build pooled resources, have one central access point for users to come in from a connectivity perspective. And then also just allow control and cost savings when we're doing different, clouds or different types of infrastructure that you may want to put all of these different endpoints on as you scale. So, one of the primary use cases in this is if someone logs in, if a user needs access to a resource, let's build access control policies. Let's allow access to resources only if they should have, access. So the concepts of zero trust and privileged access management are things that we kind of help add and enhance upon what Stratodesk and TGX can do for this type of workflow.
Very good. So we've got the next slide is, so how is it that we work together, right? And if you will, this, everybody likes to see pictures and the visualization of how this works, right? And what we do together. So if you look at this, right, from the perspective of what the overall picture is, right? Obviously, you've got the Stratodesk ability to be able to manage those endpoints across, and so the Stratodesk device would then connect to the Leostream gateway. And then the Leostream gateway has the ability to dictate or control where the actual receiver connects to and which desktop it connects to. So that's kind of the whole overall picture. It's important that everybody kind of sees how this works. So let's talk about, again, the overall how this works together, right? What is it that we do? What is it the Leostream does? And the whole thing. So again, if you think about it, Stratodesk managing the endpoints from an enterprise management plane, and then enabling the connection. So that's the important thing that I didn't mention. So Leostream is actually going to become a connection inside the Stratodesk management for the NoTouch OS. So for those that are already familiar with Stratodesk, what you will see going forward is you'll see that there's going to be a connector called Leostream, right? And then of course, by enabling that Leostream connector, that's what's going to happen is it's going to allow you to execute the Leostream client to connect to the Leostream infrastructure that'll then in turn enable you to connect to the TGX client connection and protocol. So, so hopefully there's no questions, and I think that makes sense. Ryan, Cathy, did you want add anything to that I may have forgot, walking and talking and driving at the same time?
Yeah, Rich, I think the one thing that we really should touch on here is what our three products do is build a seamless workflow to the end user. When they're logging in and they're connecting, we don't have to be thinking about all the different steps that may be happening in the back end. So the goal is from an end user's perspective, it's just as if they were logging into a local desktop. So,
yeah, that's actually a really good point. I mean, we, being the technologists, part of the vendors and those kinds of things, we often get lost in the technology and forget. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know it's all about the user experience. But yeah, to your point, this is all seamless. This is the stuff that we do to the end user. They never see this, right? They just see their desktop that they need to connect to, and they get that. So let's talk a little bit about the use cases and how this gets deployed, et cetera. I mean, originally, as I mentioned, this came to us, I guess the three of us collectively through a customer that we can't, unfortunately, we can't reference to, but I mean, it's one of those high secure, high performance environments where they said, hey, Rich, we just need to have this high performance video, high resolution video stuff. And we found this protocol called TGX. Is there anything that you guys can do from a Stratodesk perspective to do that? And so obviously I communicated with Cathy, and Cathy was very open. And actually, one of the things that I forgot to mention as well is we are currently, Cathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're currently the only thin client OS that actually natively supports the TGX protocol. So we were happy to do that. And then of course, as we started the integration process, one of the things that we found is it gets even better when you add the Leostream component of it, which is what we did. So I'm going to stop for a moment and let Ryan and Cathy go ahead and talk a little bit more about the use cases and examples, because obviously, certainly, Cathy, I'll throw this to you first. Clearly, when it comes to the TGX use cases and user experiences, you're going to be much closer to that than we are. So, Cathy?
Sure. We've actually had, I would say all clients are really serious about intellectual property. Clearly, the group that came to us initially is very serious about intellectual property and national security and all those really important things. But but everybody is. And today we are seeing an increase in customers asking about thin client options for TGX on the endpoint. And so teaming with Stratodesk is a great option because the NoTouch OS is not locked into a specific hardware client. The customer is still able to select the hardware that they want. And that's awesome. And they just simply install the Stratodesk NoTouch OS. The receiver, TGX receiver, is baked into the OS, and so it's immediately available for connections. Rich and his team has also made it really easy for that particular version of TGX to be upgraded if needed, or downgraded if needed, depending upon what's possible or what's necessary. And so really it's a great combination. We have been working with Leostream for several years. And so adding the Leostream component in the middle with Stratodesk and TGX it serves a very good capability.
And Ryan, I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned as well that we need to make sure everybody's clear of, I mean, Leostream does more than just TGX as well. I mean, you guys provide full protocol support. I mean, so that's another advantage. You know, think of a customer that, you know, for the use case, they wanted TGX or needed TGX, but they may have other protocol devices or other protocols in the environment. So to be able to, again, have a seamless solution that provides multiple protocol support. Am I right?
Yeah, so I mean, adding flexibility is one of the key components of what we do. So if there is that workflow where there are these high performing workstations with TGX, and then there may be a couple admin machines that they can use, a lower performing protocol like RDP. We can build that where it's just one portal or one pane of glass for the end user, and then also for the admin to administrate how those machines are accessed and what protocol they're using to access it.
And to have the ability from a management or administrative perspective to have full configuration capabilities of, whether you're configuring the endpoint, whether you're configuring the protocol, whether you're configuring the session, to be able to deliver that information and that experience out to the end user. And then, of course, obviously the ability to do that through a, secure environment, whether it be the protocol being secure, whether it be Leostream being able to control the users, the connections via the gateway connections, and then obviously being able to use the endpoint management security that's built into Stratodesk. These are all the important things that, and I think, as I mentioned when we were talking earlier this week, guys, I think as people see this and see what we're doing here, I think that there's going to be an added benefit and an increased adoption for all of us, because this is something, a lot of people are unaware that it's out there, and the performance is absolutely amazing. To be able to get those pixel rates, that performance, across a remote connection is pretty amazing. So Ryan, if you will, I'm going to give you a moment to get ready here, because, one of the things that we wanted to share is we wanted to share the ability to have a live demo so you can actually see this is actually in action. And of course, I'm going to, not that I'm going to bail out of this, but, obviously we're doing a remote connection over a webinar. So it's clearly not going to have the true impact that it should. But the point is you're going to see that this is actually live and in play. So here you are, you've got the Stratodesk OS running Leostream. Ryan, go ahead and drive.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So, this is actually going to be simple, but that's the goal. A user can log in, their username and password, and behind the scenes, Leostream is kind of making those decisions of what desktops to offer to an end user. In this case, I have a TGX desktop here. I've logged in. These credentials could be your typical, whatever identity provider you happen to be using. I'll go and hit connect, and this endpoint could be anywhere. If I have a Leostream gateway that is, a public-facing gateway that's in the East Coast, I could be on the West Coast. I could be on an internal network. It doesn't matter. We can build this so that it's secure. We can add multi-factor authentication, and we can put those different pieces where, in the end, when a user does connect in, they can go full screen, and now they're fully up and running, and they're able to have that display protocol that's going to make it seem just like they're at a local machine. Some of the other things we're doing on top of that as well, and this just helps with scalability and like cost control, is if we're in the cloud, we can provision these machines dynamically. Using licensed servers for TGX, we can go in and have that where we can scale up and have new machines spun up upon people logging in, and always have a certain amount of machines available for users. Beyond that, I mean, we're on a machine. This user can then connect in, and we're good to go. This is how simple it would be and should be for an end user.
Yeah, and so if you go back to the, what you saw when we first started sharing Ryan's screen, right? Literally, all you saw was the Leostream connector that was provisioned from NoTouch Center out to that endpoint. The end user launches that connector. As you saw, they log in, they get their choice of resources that they want to utilize, launch the resource, and there it is. It's just from an administrator and an end user experience, it's exactly what you would expect it to be able to do. So it's, like I said, I think this is really, really cool and really impressive. And I think more and more people are going to want to be able to test drive this. So now that we've done that, let's go jump back over. And we're going to advance the slides a little bit here. So we just did the live demo. And so joint solution summary, right? So again, think about this, right? It is the ability to provide the end users high performance, high resolution video from a perspective, whether it's remote or local, from an administrative perspective, to be able to manage and gateway and broker those different connections. And from an overall enterprise perspective, to be able to have an enterprise management platform that allows you to configure those connections and then utilize and take advantage of those connections and those protocols to deliver a wonderful high performance desktop experience. Ryan, Cathy, please feel free. I mean, I've been sitting here talking. I think there's more that you guys can probably add. This is a really cool solution.
Yeah, I think one thing that we didn't really touch on is a common way to remotely access machines right now is through a VPN. This workflow we just showed does not have a VPN at all involved. So you can still keep it secure. You don't need to have a VPN, which can become costly at scale. So when you get to 10 to 100 to 200 desktops, the amount of bandwidth that you may need to remotely access those could be astronomical. And the amount of VPN hardware you're going to need is going to be very expensive compared to this type of solution. So by doing this, we can really enable these types of workflows to scale, regardless of where they are and what resources you have available.
Yeah, I'll just kick one more thing in on top of that, Ryan. Our clients, our customers that are using Leostream, the performance is much better from a latency perspective if there's not a VPN in play. And so, we do a lot of monitoring of exactly what the latencies are between connections. And I can state unequivocally that the Leostream connections, with the way you guys manage your gateway, it's a lot less latent than a lot of the VPN and VPN clients that are out there.
Yeah, and you might as well take that part of it out, right? So,
right. Yeah,
because again, at that point, you're just adding overhead, and more people are going away from VPNs anyways, I believe. So, and Allison just pointed out, by the way, for the audience, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat dialogue. We're here to answer questions if there are any, because we're getting pretty close to being able to wrap this up. But again, it's all about delivering that end user experience. And I can't say it enough. I'm really impressed with the TGX protocol and the way that it delivers it, and our ability jointly with Leostream to be able to deliver this. And quite frankly, from front to end, if you look at the engineering efforts that we put into it from the three companies, it actually only took us about a month, which is, and that's with all the other projects that we had going on and interrupting schedules and those kinds of things, So, because when a customer asks and says, hey, can you do this? Being engineering, we all like to go, yeah, we can do it, and then we start interrupting everybody's schedules and saying, hey, by the way, stop doing that. We need you to do this. And so, the ability to put this together pretty quickly was quite amazing. So again, I want to make sure that we thank both of your guys' companies. So let's see, what else can we talk about? We talked about the multi-cloud. Again, you can have different resources in different locations. Multi-cloud as well, from Stratodesk perspective, you can have different resources wherever you want them deployed, and obviously have NoTouch Center in the cloud. Let's see, what do we got next going on this? And guys, like I said, feel free if there's anything else you want to add. But at the end of the day, right, this is about delivering performance and resolutions that the users expect while giving the administrators the ability to manage and control this, regardless of where the end users are, regardless of where the administrators are. So, so before I put up our contact information, so that if anybody has any questions, they'll be able to certainly get back to us, and want to thank everybody. And actually, we just had a question pop in. If I'm a Horizon Citrix customer, what would be the big selling point that might make you want to switch? And I would say, I don't think that you'd really want to switch necessarily. I think this is more of a thing that there may be opportunity that you were unaware of, or use case for the TGX protocol is something you hadn't seen before that will be able to deliver a desktop experience that's going to be maybe a little bit better. Well, I wouldn't say, Cathy, I'll let you address that. Probably a whole lot better with the resolution and performance for those video demands. So, and Cathy, I don't know if you want to, get into the weeds about, comparing protocol to protocol, but from your experience, TGX versus other protocols that you could use, anything you want to kind of, add to that?
Yeah, I guess I would just go back to our emphasis has been on power users that have workflows that demand high-end GPUs, and the whole key to a proper implementation is to make sure that we don't compete for the resources of the CPU or the GPU while we're doing our work, because you really want to leave all those resources for the applications that have the most work to do. And so, we welcome any opportunity to have for somebody to do an evaluation of our software. That's not difficult at all. Yeah.
And Cathy, I'm going to add to this. I'm going to give you a moment to think about this. I'm going to give you the setup here. This is regarding X-rays, if you will, because I actually happen to know the customer or where this question came from, and it happens to be healthcare. So I would imagine part of their question about this is regarding, is there going to be benefits to, let's say, looking at X-rays or those kinds of things from a healthcare perspective?
Yeah, and I guess, I'm not overly familiar at this point with all of the federal regulations on exactly how and what types of connections have to be in place to allow that examination of visibility in terms of whether you're doing it for diagnostics or you're doing it just to describe what's going on. We certainly have some evaluations going on right now in the medical field, but I'm going to defer right now based upon what the actual regulations are. So for example, a lot of the monitors that they use in the hospitals for these X-ray examinations and things, they're very color calibrated, which is great, which is fine. And I mean, we'll certainly support the degree of color, but there's a lot of federal regulation on exactly how those connections occur.
Okay. So, but it's certainly something that you would have.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. And so to the person asking that question, you know how to reach me. We can certainly talk about that later on if you want, but hopefully that helps. I mean, again, we're talking about expanding the opportunities and the use cases of where the overall solution fits to be able to do this, deliver that experience out to the end users. And Cathy, thanks for taking that a little bit on the fly. I hadn't thought of that coming up. I mean, but we should have thought, again, just digging into it a little bit more off the cuff, I think, from a healthcare perspective,
Yeah, Rich, and one thing I wanted to say from the Leostream side is we do actually have customers in healthcare doing workflows just like that. And it's one of the big important things with that is being flexible on the hardware platforms or moving those workflows to the cloud. So when you do have someone that's on a Horizon or Citrix environment, the biggest benefit and value add is going to be flexibility. When you're in that software stack, you're stuck with all those different components, and those are the only components you can really use. So by adding our solution in place, we start adding in the ability to pick and choose what fits best for their workflow or for their architecture or the regulations they may have to abide by.
All right, good. And I think kind of finishing up that thought that I had, Cathy, and I don't know that we know the answer to this, but it's something we'll have to think about, is I think if I'm going back, my experience with healthcare is there are certain resolutions and or pixel rates that have to be supported, like for looking at X-rays, obviously for the diagnostic perspective. And I would imagine, obviously, TGX, I'm sure, supports those different things. But again, that's an off the cuff. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So with that, I think we've kind of gotten to the end of where we're at. And I don't see any more questions. Again, I'm going to give kind of stall a little bit here, give everybody a moment to.
Actually, Rich, I think there is one more question. Menser here, and
Okay.
this seems to be directly to me. This is from Tom, and it says, "Hi there. Can I ask this? For my small team working on a high-resolution studio-secure video content, are there thin clients like Amulet, etc., which support all this to make things simple on-premise as well? Thanks."
So the answer to that is yes. Again, the advantage of being agnostic from a hardware perspective from all of us, right, is we can deliver that experience. We can deliver multiple protocols, and we can deliver it regardless of where it's at. So to be able to put the NoTouch OS on the different hardwares, obviously Leostream is hardware agnostic as well as the TGX protocol, and of course we can support multiple protocols within that space. So I hope that answers the question. And again, so I've got our contact information up there. I'm going to pause, give Cathy a minute to add any additional thoughts that she might want to, and then we'll follow that up with Ryan. And I'm going to go ahead and take a drink of water. So Cathy, go ahead.
Sure. I have a question here as well. What industries are using Mechdyne? And so our first target industry was oil and gas because of other work that Mechdyne does. We had a lot of contacts with oil and gas. So we have a large number of oil and gas or energy, I just call them energy clients or customers that use TGX around the world. When COVID hit, there was a lot of media and entertainment that found TGX. And so they are very different industries with very different needs and requirements. And we were able to service both of them very quickly. And so we have a lot of media and entertainment. We have a fair amount of engineering and some architects as well. So again, it's back to the groups that have demanding workflows where they're already using GPUs as a requirement. We've got some geospatial customers, those that are using Esri or other things like that. So just we're pretty uniform across a variety of industries, but we started with oil and gas, and that's a hard one to satisfy. I can tell you, because they have extremely large data sets and they look at extremely high resolution data on very high resolution monitors. And so being off a pixel can be a problem. And so hopefully that answered that question. If not, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Just send me an email.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, put it in the context of what you said, geospatial and being off 1 pixel. So I'm just kind of this, right? Imagine if you're looking down at a satellite view, 1 pixel could be quite a huge area.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah,
I'm sure it does make a difference. Ryan, go ahead.
So I kind of want to echo what Cathy said on that. This workflow and what we do kind of fits in multiple different industries. So media, entertainment, engineering, education's another big one. Now, one thing that I've seen that's kind of been similar between all of these over the past year is that it's allowing a company to have a more global workforce or a more global end user. So you can build this type of workflow and expand beyond just having something where we're central to the LA area or the New York area. You can have users that are all over the country or students that are all over the country. So this technology really lets us take these traditional VDI workflows and expand them where a company can be not just based in Boston, they could be based all over the world.
Yeah, again, it's about delivering the end user experience, regardless of how we get it out there, regardless of the pandemic. I mean, I think that, our work environments become the more hybrid work environment where they're, I think we're going to start to see some people going back into the offices, but I think that there's going to continue to be the remote workforce as you were talking about. I don't think that that's going to change. And so, as the time of this has progressed, it's going to be more important for people to be able to, not only now we've got our connectivity, but we'll take our connectivity and our experience to the next level. So I think that that's kind of the key. Let's see, there's one, see, I think so. Can you ask if the codec is supported on Mac hardware on the host machine?
So currently we support Mac as a receiver, but not yet as a sender. The sender is on the roadmap, but it's not yet been scheduled.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers the question clearly. Yeah,
So receiver, yes, sender, no.
correct. Sender soon. How does that sound?
All right, well, that,
Yes.
that's obviously, driven like anything else, right? Client demand, right? So, and resource availability. So, well, I would like to say then, guys, if you don't have anything else to add, I think we're probably about ready to wrap this up. It was nice to have you. Again, I think this alliance is going to do a lot for our customers jointly. I think it's going to do a lot for us individually as well, because I think this is going to expose us to some customer bases that we may not have had opportunity to speak with before. I'd like to thank everybody that attended today. We actually had quite a large audience, and thank you for participating in the questions. Obviously, our contact information is out here. Our wonderful marketing teams are going to do their jobs. So certainly, you can always go to stratodesk.com to get more information. Obviously, Leostream to get more information. You go to Mechdyne to get more information about all this. And of course, there's going to be more publicity to follow. So again, thank you, everybody. And I'm really looking forward to how this alliance takes us further.